So without further ado, I would like to introduce our chefs who will introduce themselves and what they are cooking. Denisa, can you get us started?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Denisa Feddersen. I live in Lafayette, California. I'm a board member in San Francisco, Sokol, San Francisco, and I'm a mom of 3 adult sons. And I will be making a very popular and traditional soup, bramboračka, potato soup. That's one of the basic soups in the Czech Republic. Happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Lenka Bagherian. I live in Danville, California, and I will be making pancakes or palatchinki today. It's about it. And here we have.
Good morning. My name is Milena Harvey, and I will be making španělské ptáčky and houskové knedlíky. So let's go right to it. I'm gonna start by showing you all the ingredients we have. I pre-cut everything to save some time. We have some meat, we have bacon, some oil. This is gonna be for the thickening. Then we have some onions for the gravy. And here we have the mustard and all the goodness which will go inside the ptáčky, the Spanish birds. I'm gonna start by putting the bacon into the pot because it takes a long time to release under all the fat. So we're gonna start with that. And because I can leave this alone, but I will show you how we construct the ptáčky. Let's go back here. I already pounded all the meat but one. I have a traditional mallet for meat. So you wanna beat it gently. You don't wanna beat it too heavily because then you would make holes in your meat. So you gently pound it so it gets nice and thin and it gets bigger by about half. Okay, I think that's enough pounding. So I will show you also a second option. If you don't want to roll all the ptáčky, but you still like all the flavors and everything, we call it the rozlétané ptáčky or the flyaway birds. So I'm gonna use this piece of meat for it. You pound it and then you just cut it in smaller pieces. And it will go to the pot at the same time as the rolled up ptáčky. And it will get all the other ingredients in it. So the gravy and the meat, just the meat is gonna be smaller pieces and it's not gonna be rolled up, but all the flavors are gonna be there. So now let's go to making the ptáčky. So I have all the pounded meat. I'm just gonna lay it out on my cutting board. I'm gonna use the salt I have pre-measured. Usually I count about 1 teaspoon of salt for about a pound of meat. It is a totally personal preference. You know, if you don't use salt at all, if you have dietary restrictions, you can omit it. Or if you like saltier stuff, then you can use more. I use about 1 teaspoon per pound of meat, and then pretty much goes for any kind of meat. Oops. It goes for chicken, beef, pork. I'm making the ptáčky out of pork this time. The traditional recipe calls for beef, but because of time restrictions, beef cooks much longer than pork. So we're making it with pork so we can finish on time. I'm gonna wash my hands really quick. And we're gonna use some freshly cracked pepper. We put some on the cut up meat too. The mustard, you know, the recipe says 4 teaspoons of mustard. I'm not measuring it. We like mustard because the mustard gives it acidity. So we just squeeze it on and spread it with knife. So it covers pretty much the whole pounded piece of meat. And it's gonna be time to put all the goodness, all the stuffing inside. We're gonna use some hard-boiled egg, which we're gonna cut into quarters. And each piece is gonna get 1/4 on it. For the rozlétané ptáčky, if you didn't do any of the rolled up ones, you would grate the hard-boiled egg towards the end of the cooking. You don't really want too much cooking because twice cooked egg becomes a little rubbery. Then we're gonna put some of the bacon. Then piece of sausage. And it does not really matter what kind of sausage you use, like Polish sausage, or you can even do a hot dog, pretty much anything you like. If you don't like sausage at all, you can omit it. Then we have a pickle. The pickle was pretty big in the recipe. I have a pickle cut in half because last time I had smaller ones. Again, if you like big pickles, you can just cut it in half. I cut it in quarters. Put that there. And the last thing we're gonna put in is a chunk of onion. Usually I do 1/4 of the onion goes into the stuffing and 3/4 go for the gravy. And now we're gonna do the rolling. You have 3 options for rolling. You can use a string to hold it together. You can use toothpicks, or I brought these from Czech. They're like meat needles. I still, my favorite one is the string, so I'm gonna start with that. So that's why you need a big piece of meat. So when you roll it, it will hold nicely together. So that's one ptáček. Did I lose the onion out of that one?
Okay.
I think I did.
Oh,
Yeah, it jumped out. Let's put it back in there. We're gonna lose. No, we're gonna have it in there. So now we're gonna re-roll all of them.
Milena, we have a question. What type of mustard is being used and what type of pickles are being used?
I'm using Dijon mustard because I like Dijon mustard. Again, it's what kind you like. You could use just regular French yellow mustard. You could use kremská hořčice for those, you know, the whole grain mustard. Pretty much, again, it's what you like. I'm using Dijon because I like Dijon. So we're gonna start the first one with the string. So you slide the string underneath and you kind of do it like you would do when you send a package. Like you make the first knot without really tying it. Then you flip it over, make an eye, slide it again underneath and tighten it. Flip it over and you go underneath the string and underneath the string. That way everything holds nice and tight together. Can you see it? And at last, you just tie both ends together and you have nice, tight ptáček. And you take the scissors and cut the string. Let's check on the bacon really quick. Look, That looks good. It's really,
Milena, we have a quick
yes.
question about what cut of pork are you using?
this is a sirloin, but you could use loin too. So usually it's kita in Czech, but just sirloin would be good. You want a little bit of fat in there, so it wouldn't be too dry.
Okay, can you say that again? What type of pork are you using for the ptáčky?
Sirloin.
Sirloin. Okay, thank you.
So the second one we're gonna tie with toothpicks. So you just go where the flap ends and you go in and out and back in. That's secured one end. Again, you do the flap and the onion just does not want to stay in. So we're gonna force it back in, go over, and just stick it in there. And now we want to do the other side. There we go. So you see this one is not as pretty, but it serves the purpose as well. Then we can do this one with the needle. The needle pretty much works the same way as you would do with the toothpicks. It's just because it's so much sharper, it's so much easier to pierce the meat in and out and in and out. So that's on one side. Other side. And let's keep the good stuff in there on the last side. And the last bird we're gonna do again with the string because they're the prettiest. So you go under, you cross it and tighten. The second one, you do the loop, go underneath and tighten it. Flip it over, tuck all the loose pieces in and go underneath both strings. There's one, there's the other one. And last, you tie it together. And we're gonna cut the loose ends. Okay, now we're gonna take the whole thing and we're gonna sit them in the bacon fat. And you wanna use heavy bottom pot because then when we're gonna be braising it, you want something what doesn't let the tight fitting lid and what keeps the heat nicely distributed. So now we're gonna brown them on each side. I'm gonna wash my hands. And we're gonna braise, brown the bird on all sides. Okay. And while they're browning, we're gonna start on the dumplings because the dumplings will need some time too. So I'm gonna leave it on between simmer and medium so it wouldn't be going too fast, the browning. And we're gonna go to the dumplings. For the dumplings, and we're making hoskové knedlíky. So you can see that I have some hoska. It's cut up bread. You can use French bread or you can use Kaiser rolls. You can even use bagels. Do not use Wonder bread. Do not use any of the soft breads because when they get wet, they just get so mushy that it's not very appetizing. Then we're gonna have flour. We have about 3 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We're gonna put 1 teaspoon of yeast using SAF instant yeast, or you can use the rapid yeast. I bake a lot, so I just buy big packages. So usually in the store, you can buy it in a packet. So you would use the whole packet. Then we have some water. We have 1 cup. For each 3 cups pretty much of flour, you would use 1 cup of water. We're gonna break the egg in there. And I don't have salt. We're gonna do 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix it in. And before we turn it on, let's go check back on the birds. And we're gonna flip them again. So now most of the bird is gonna be brown. Hold on. You can flip the small pieces as well. Or our rozlétané ptáčky. Turn the heat up a little more. Okay, and let's go start on we're gonna put the liquid. We're gonna break the egg with a spoon. We're gonna all pour it into the flour, and we're gonna set it in the mixer. The mixer is very loud when it's on. So I'm gonna hand it over to Denisa to do her introductions, and in a minute or so, she is gonna go back to me, so I will show you the progress of the dough. So Denisa, it is to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Milano. I can only imagine how the meat and the bacon smells amazing. So we're going to be making potato soup. Potato soup is a staple in the Czech cuisine. And this potato soup is from my grandmother. And my grandmother cooked where she would just add whatever vegetables she had in her house at the time. So in the recipe that we published, it also includes mushrooms. You'll notice that I don't have mushrooms here, and that's because my family doesn't eat it. And I certainly have never eaten potato soup with mushrooms, but it's very, very common. So the ingredients that we have are, we have onions, we have butter and flour, we have root vegetables, which is a celery root, carrots. I also have regular celery. I added Brussels sprouts, and you can add any vegetable or omit as you wish. I like Brussels sprouts. You can also add a little bit of cauliflower and substitute, as I said, like my grandmother did. And then, of course, we have potatoes. For seasonings, we have salt and pepper, marjoram, which is an important part for the potato soup, and then caraway seed. That's very common to be used in cooking with potatoes. I will start my skillet, and what I do first is I put butter, and just before we even start to that, the butter and the flour measurement is about 1:1. So I have about 1 tablespoon of butter and I have 1 tablespoon of flour. These ingredients are on a small scale. The reason is my 3 sons are grown and don't live with us anymore, and my husband and I are going to be eating this on our own. So I'm just making enough for 2. Typically, you would make this on a larger scale. So I'm going to add the butter in the skillet. And then what you want to do first is brown the root vegetables, which would be, in this case, our carrots, celery root, and onions together, because it gives it a much better flavor than if you don't. And when they're brown, sauteed enough, and again, přiměřeně, just about enough, reasonably, You add the flour, brown it, and then you add water and the rest of the vegetables. So I'm just gonna be browning the butter first, and you have to be careful so it doesn't get burned. So I'm turning it down a little bit. Melina, are you ready for me to turn it back to you?
Yes, I am. So let's just look at the birds. The birds are getting nice and golden. So that's what we want. We're gonna leave them in there for a little bit, and I want to show you the progress of the dough. So it mixed together, but you can see that it's nice and stiff. You don't want it running off of the hook. If it's running off of the hook, you need to add a little more flour. So now it's the perfect time to add the breadcrumbs, the cut up cubes, and I'm gonna turn it back on, and Deniso, go ahead.
So far I've added onions, and this is what it looks like right now. And I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. And right after onions, I'm gonna add celery. And again, the vegetable measuring is about 1:1, depending on what you like more of. Some people like more carrots, and you can certainly do that. Also, you can either cut it in small pieces or you can grate it. I like it grated. So I grated this particular one. And now I'm gonna let it brown a little bit. My grandmother also used lard, and that's very flavorful, especially if you have bacon fat and combine that with butter. You can certainly do that too. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like right now. This is what it looks like. And we're gonna brown it a little bit. The butter is very flavorful. I am always concerned that it's gonna burn, so the lard helps, a little bit of olive oil helps, but today I'm using only butter. At this time, you can also add garlic. I'm not using that today, but this is the time that you would use finely chopped garlic. We can also add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. My mother-in-law oftentimes would ask me when they visited with my father-in-law, how do you make this soup? Can you give me the recipe? And I would always say, you know, it's hard to tell, because the way my grandmother prepared it was just to add pinch of this and pinch of that without any measurement whatsoever. So for me to reconstruct a recipe was difficult. And again, it depends on what vegetable happens to be in the house. Nowadays, I can buy whatever I want, but still, I sort of sometimes I feel like having more broccoli. I add broccoli, sometimes cauliflower. So at this point, I added flour, and I'm gonna cook a little bit. You want it to cook. You don't want the flour to be raw and brown. And it's starting to smell really good. The vegetables are browning nicely. And I keep mixing it. So right now it looks like this. And we're gonna keep mixing. You want the flour to be a little bit brown. And you have to be careful so that the bottom doesn't get too stuck. So just keep mixing. I keep scraping the bottom so it doesn't get burned. And this is just about the right time where I can add some water. You can add water. I often use broth. You can use beef broth. You can use chicken stock. So we're gonna add some broth. I have about 2 cups here. But as I said, as the soup cooks further down, you can always add more. Now we can also add the rest of our vegetables. I'm gonna be adding my Brussels sprouts. And I'm gonna be also adding chopped celery. And now we're gonna let it cook. I think I'm gonna add my potatoes at the same time. I usually don't brown the potatoes. And again, the more vegetables you add to the butter, the more butter you'll need for browning. So this is what my soup looks like right now. And it's gonna cook. And you need to cook that for at least 10 minutes.
Okay, can we check on the dough?
There you go, Milena, right back to you.
Thank you. So the dough has finished mixing, so it took us about 6 minutes. So you can see it doesn't stick to the bowl, it doesn't stick to my fingers, and it's not runny at all. So we're just gonna pull it off from the hook. Make a nice bowl. And I usually use shower caps, cover it up. And it really depends how warm your kitchen is, how long the rising it's gonna take. So I'm gonna set it back here. My kitchen is pretty warm and it's gonna sit there for another 20 minutes or so. So let's go back to the birds. The birds are nice and golden. We're gonna get them out. Just pour a little bit. We can leave the small pieces in there, that's okay. And we're gonna turn the heat up and we're gonna put the onions in. And we're gonna fry the onions in the bacon fat. If there is not enough fat, like you can see that, you know, there are bubbles on the bottom, so that's enough. If sometimes the bacon is very lean, you can add a little bit of oil. I have it ready here, but I don't think we need it. So I'm just gonna stick with what we have. And you know, if you don't eat bacon or cured meats, you can omit it altogether. You lose some of the flavors, but you can fry or brown the birds in regular oil. Don't use olive oil. Olive oil does not like hot temperature for too long. So you would just do it with regular oil until it browns. Then you would proceed the same way you would get the birds out. If the birds soaked up all the fat, you would add a little bit more, and you just go and get it nice and brown or golden, more of a golden color. I think that's good. So we're gonna return the birds back in there along with all the juice if they release any.
Wanted to just interrupt for a moment and say that we have some participants that are actually cooking with us. Don't stop cooking. We'll check in with you later. You look terrific. So I just wanted to say that we actually have a team cooking with you, chefs.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm gonna pour about a cup of water over it. Put the heavy lid on top. And we can leave this, and I'm gonna turn down the heat. And we're gonna move on to the palachinki. Lenko, it's to you.
Okay, so I'll start with making the batter. I have already measured here my flour, but I'll actually start with the eggs. I have 2 eggs, which I just crack in and put back. Then I'll take some of the milk, just about maybe 1/3. And then I start mixing. So the eggs break.
Why do you do that?
It's easier, it gets better mixed together. Okay. Then I add, okay, I need a little bit salt that I can mix directly. You know, it's just should be a pinch, just a little bit. And I can mix it into the flour so it dissolves easier. I'm not using the baking powder because you don't have to. If you want to, you can. It makes the pancakes a little bit more fluffy, but I actually prefer the pancakes like thinner, like crepes. So that's why I don't use. And then I try to mix the flour into just a little bit of the milk with the eggs. And then I will add later the rest of the milk, maybe partially, so it doesn't make clumps. Should dissolve really nicely. You see how the clumps, are disappearing slowly. Okay, now I add the rest of the milk and mix it. So now you will see about how thick the batter should be. It is kind of not like milk, little thicker, like drinking yogurt, about that consistency, right? And what I used was 4 deciliters of milk, 200 grams of flour, and 2 eggs. You see, it's nicely smooth. Now, if I want for more flavor, I can add some zest from a lemon. It's directly from the tree. This is a Mayer lemon. You can use any one, or you can use orange, anything. It just adds some little flavor and makes it a little more delicious. Not too much, maybe just half an lemon.
Oh, it smells good.
It does smell really good. Those fresh lemons are the best. This is, again, a thing that's optional, right? You don't have to do it. We actually, at my house and my mom, we always did it, right? So I'm still doing it. My kids like it better that way too. And then we just mix it. And this is it. Now we have the batter. It actually likes to wait a little bit to stand, and it kind of dissolves better. And even the flavor from the lemon gets better dissolved and tastes better. So now we're going back to
Denisa. Okay, Denisa, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay,
So
it's going back to you.
say what? Are we good?
Yeah, it's going back to you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to show you what the soup looks like right now. It's boiling really nicely. And I will add, at this point, I will add a little more caraway seed. Caraway seed, this is, I think this is grated, but usually it comes as seeds. And just put a little bit, I would say half a teaspoon. And then I also will add a little bit of seasoned salt. This is optional and this is to taste, but I'll add a little bit of that as well. And it's just cooking nicely. It smells wonderful. There's one more seasoning that we're gonna add, and that's margarine, but that one's added usually at the very end. If you want to add also garlic, minced garlic, or cut in very fine paste, you can do that at the end as well. Margarine, if you cook it for too long, it turns bitter. So you just want to add that for flavoring at the very last. So right now this just continues to cook, and it's going to cook for another 10 or so minutes. So I think we're good to go. Who can I send it back to, Milena or Lenka?
Actually, I'm gonna be taking it over. We have a little bit of time while all of these things cook and prep. So we wanted to do something slightly different and give our participants a chance to ask questions or clarification, or maybe even a quick memory. You can either put it in chat or you can actually unmute and ask your question.
While we're waiting for questions, I have a little side note. When I was making the recipe, I kept thinking, why is it called Španělský ptáček? Why is it called a Spanish bird when there's really no Spanish ingredient in it? So I ask Mr. Google. And španělské ptáčky have been made in the Bohemia or the region, Czech region, since Rudolf II, which is the 16th century. And he was raised in Spanish court, so he brought his Spanish chefs. And it was a delicacy to have a veal rolls filled with stuffing. So when it was brought to Bohemia, they stuffed it with what was local. And that's how the Spanish bird became to be. So we have been eating Spanish bird for, wow, for more than 400 years. Do we have any questions, Jano?
I don't see any questions on chat, but let me give a couple seconds for people to unmute if they want to say something.
Okay, then Lenka might tell us something about palachinky.
Give us a second. Is anyone, any questions? So far, no questions. And Yitka and her buddy over there are just cooking away. You'll be getting a wave. We're getting a thumbs up. Yitka, how's it going?
Yeah. My friend is visiting from Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. Amy Swoboda.
Wonderful. Ahoy, ahoy. Wonderful. Keep on cooking.
Yes.
We'll check in with you at the end to see how it went.
Sounds good.
Great. All right. I think there are no questions in the chat, no questions online. So Lenko, tell us about palachinky.
Yes, so of course I Googled it too, and Wikipedia told me that actually something like pancakes has been done since, Stone Age. There always have been people mixing flour into water, maybe with honey or oil or something like that. But the name palachinky has a very interesting history. Actually, in 1787, Duke from Hungary, who was Esterházy, went to France and he liked to eat. So he took his chef from his court with him and traveled to Paris. And there he saw that people were eating crepes and he loved it. So he brought the recipe and with his chef back. And the chef's name, actually, he was from Italy. His name was Palaccini. And that's why when he got back and this chef was making the pancakes at the court, people started to call it after the chef, palachinken, palachink, or something like that. That name still exists in German, and of course in Czech, we have palachinky. Although this was in Hungary and Romania, they don't make pancakes as much as we accepted them in Central Europe and Northern Europe. But that's about the history. So palachinky, the name is after an Italian chef from the Hungarian court that went to Paris. Very international.
And I have one more question for you. You spent some time in Sweden. And you mentioned that Swedes eat palachinky as well, and it's actually more of a ritual, right?
Yes, in Sweden, you always eat palachinky or pancakes on Thursday. It is a tradition that Thursday evening you make pea soup and pancakes. And the tradition, they explain it that by Friday, Friday was usually a fast, so you didn't eat much. So that's why they wanted to eat extra lot on Thursday night. So that's why they make this pea soup and pancakes. The pancakes are not rolled like we do in Czech. They're just folded into 4 pieces, like in quarters. And then you usually put a jam next to it. The most traditional is strawberry jam. Never lingonberry. Forget about it. Lingonberry goes with meat. Never on pancakes in Sweden. They will think that you are crazy.
How do you say palachinky in Swedish?
Pannkakor.
Pannkakor.
It's again totally pancakes. Pannkakor. Yeah.
Very good.
I can add to it if I may. I married my husband's father. His mother was Swedish. His father was German. But when I married my husband, first week married, my husband said, "You have to taste my dad's Swedish pancakes. That's just the absolute best, and he makes them the best." And then when we did meet and he made them, I was thinking in the back of my head, it's like, this is just regular palachinki. This is nothing special. But in the family, it is special. And I have to say that his were the best. They were just so tender and so thin, and they would eat them with butter and sugar, and it was just a luxury. So I completely get it that in Sweden it's very popular, and I think that was just a favorite. And it was also a memory of his mother, his Swedish mother, grandpa's mom. So it's one of our family's favorite. And yeah, I agree. Swedish, it's very special in Sweden, and one of my favorites in the Czech cuisine as well.
I totally second that.
I agree.
Very good. How are we looking, Jano, in the chat?
There are no other questions. We loved hearing the historical pieces. Thank you so much for including that.
Okay, so let's see if the dough, how is it looking? I think it could be there a little longer, but you know, you can see that it relaxed. It's much softer to the touch. So I say, let's roll them. I'm gonna go to the other side. And I work directly on my stone. I don't, back home, we used to roll them on a big wooden board, navale, but I don't here. I just use the stone. I will use some flour for them to rise on. But let's cut them in half. And I love, if you don't have a bread scraper in your kitchen, I suggest you get one because it's such a great helper, because I don't like to use knife on my countertops. This has a dull edge and makes the cleaning, like when you have stuff all stuck on, you just scrape everything and makes cleaning easy. So I divided the dough into 2 halves, a little bigger. You want them very similar because they will cook at the same time. So you want them to be done the same. And you roll them into a ball. You can use both hands. You want nice and tight ball. Both of them. And you can see that they hold shape. You don't want, if the dough kind of relaxes and flattens out, you have too much water in there. You want them to hold nice shape, and then when they boil, they will hold nice shape. So first you do the roll, and I don't have flour. I'm just gonna get flour really quick.
Okay, so we're gonna watch the balls for a while Milena is getting the flour. Here she is.
So we're just gonna spread, and the flour I put underneath the rolled and resting knedlíky so it wouldn't stick too much. So now we have the ball and we roll it, and you kind of go forward and out and back. You roll it and forward and out. So you want them pretty uniform throughout. And I don't know if you guys watched the svíčková. I think it was our 6th or 5th. Denisa was making svíčková with knedlíky, and she is using different kind of knedlíky. She was making the one with baking powder. So you have several different ways to make knedlíky. I prefer yeast. I love working with yeast. There's my hair. Sorry about that.
Not necessary to add.
So we're gonna get it out. So these ones use yeast as the rising element. Denisa's, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, is using the ones with baking powder. And so we have a nice roll. So we want to set them because they're gonna rise. So we're gonna set them, you know, maybe 3 inches apart. We're gonna take a dish towel and cover them up so they are nice and warm. And we're gonna let them rest for another 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And meanwhile, I'm gonna turn on the water in the big pot. You need the biggest pot you have in your kitchen. I have a nice big one. That's pretty much the only thing I use it for is dumplings, because you will see how much they will spring up when they boil. So we're gonna start the water boiling. And I think if Denisa doesn't have anything, we can go to palachinky.
The only thing I was gonna ask if I can, Milena, is
Sure.
the soup is pretty much ready. It looks like this. And this is the time that I would add the margarine. And if you have a store-bought or if you grow it yourself, I usually just take a pinch, maybe half a teaspoon, and it's really to taste. And my grandmother always would roll it in her palm so that it would be finer, and also so the flavors would come out a little more. And then you add it to your soup and you mix it and you're ready to serve. So this is all I had.
Great. Dennis, so can you show us the pot again? We had a little quick interruption
Sure.
and your video went away.
There you go. That's our soup. Potato soup.
Yum. Okay, so we're gonna move to palachinky. I think the dough is rested. So Lenko, take it away.
Okay, so I hope this is the right button.
Yes.
Right, okay. I start on pretty high. I have the actually special pan for pancakes. You can use any pan. At home, I actually have this one. And then I put some oil on the pan. I'm using a brush, so it's kind of evenly spread throughout the pan. For the first one, I usually use a little more because the first one might need it. And then I'll show you, hold it. Then I'll show you the batter, you know, it's just kind of rested and it's very happy. And it's a little thick, just how it should be.
It looks silky.
It looks kind of silky. And then I'll have what is it?
Ladle.
Ladle. Okay, I'm from Morava, so it's šufanek. It's nabiračka. And I measure about a full one that I will move to the hot frying pan. I hope it is already at least a little bit hot. I go a little bit round and then I try to move it and spread it evenly. Okay, the batter is kind of pretty thick. The clumps actually is not flour, it's probably the orange peel. And then you wait about 30 seconds, you know, to have it done on one side. You could see that, you know, the batter changes and it's like stiffens and it's a pancake already. Then it's time to turn it around. So you take the spatula. I usually check so it gets a little color in the bottom, like golden brown. And then you take it and turn around. The other side, about 30 seconds to maybe a little shorter. There is, of course, the way when you take the pancakes, the pan, and you throw it up and it turns in the air. I can't do that, so I'm not even trying, right? But there's a way to do it that way. I'm more into the traditional way, so I use the spatula and a little bit more. If you want to make this faster, you can, of course, use 2 frying pans at the same time, which works really well too. Now I will put a little more oil for the next one, not as much. And then I take another ladle and repeat the same process again and go around and around and round. Don't believe it. They're not perfectly round. Maybe if I use more batter, it would go around the pan. It might be more even, but I don't care. They should be pretty soft, but it depends. My mom preferred to have pancakes crunchy, crispy. It was just so she put a lot of oil, butter, whatever, and they were really crunchy, crispy. You could hardly roll them. That was Mom theory. She was from Hana, so a very rich area. They put a lot of oil and fat into everything. So that's that side. We turn nicely brown, little bit.
And as the pan heats up, it goes quicker.
It goes quicker. So now I actually need to sink it medium, between medium and thin, because it goes much faster. And if you're doing two pans, so while I'm waiting for this one, you do the next one, and you just keep going, and it goes very fast. So, and I put them there. I stack them on each other on a plate. That way they stay warm until you will be ready to fill them in. Okay, I'll try to make this one a little larger, a little more batter, so we'll see if it will turn and be bigger. Wow, no, that's okay. I have very nice shapes, very original.
It's art.
It is an art, okay? I think this is it. I will keep doing this until I use all the batter. This recipe would do about 8, 9 pancakes. So enough for a family as a dessert. If you want to make, it as a dinner, like in Sweden, you will probably make more. But that's how it is.
What oil do you use for palatine?
Here I use vegetable oil. You can use, I'm buying at Costco, the frying oil that is olive oil, but it's lighter, so you can fry on that too. Traditionally, there was lard or there was butter. Any fat you like, you can use. Nowadays, you probably use mostly oil, vegetable.
Okay.
All right, back to Milena.
Let's check on the ptačky. I'm gonna get my
Try this.
Good. And we're gonna turn them around.
You see, they're shrinking a little bit, but that's because of the cooking. But not too much, actually. They're pretty good.
Good. So we're gonna flip them over. And we have plenty of braising liquid. That's good. So if you did just the rozletané ptáčky, no rolled ups, now you would add some of the sausage, because you already fried it on the bacon, so the bacon would already be there. But you would add some of the sausage. You would add the pickle chopped up into small pieces, but don't do eggs yet. Save the eggs at the very last. So I think this looks pretty good. So we're gonna put the lid back on and we're gonna keep braising them. And I just had one note on the palachinki. My family, when I was growing up, we were also making, we called them amulety. We didn't call them palachinki, we called them amulety. And we also made them savory. Traditional way is to eat them sweet with jam, and as Lenka will show later with all the different fillings. We had them usually with sauteed spinach. When we had leftover spinach, mom would chop up some hot dog or bushtik or leftover salamek in small little pieces. And when you put the oil on the pan, that's when you would put or smoked meat. That's when you would put the chopped up really fine, maybe a tablespoon of it, fry it a little bit, and then you would pour the batter over, make the palachinka just like Lenka did, and then you would fill it with warmed up sauteed spinach. So that's another way that you don't have to have it only sweet, that it can be savory as well. So let's check on the dumplings. I would leave them there few minutes. So we have maybe 4-5 minutes. It's probably going to be just when our water is going to finish boiling. So we have few minutes to answer any questions if there are any.
So we go back to Jana or Denisa.
Jana can check the
Yes,
chat.
I'm checking right now. I think Lenka already answered the question as to what type of oil is being used for palacinki. But there are no other questions at this point in time. We're at 12 o'clock. We're
Perfect.
finishing up. We're doing
We're gonna
very
eat at
well.
12:30. So
Yeah.
few things about the knedlíky. You know, these are called houskové knedlíky, and we chose to make houskové knedlíky because last time I made them, I didn't have the houska in them. So those are called just kinuté knedlíky, which is also a variation. You would use exactly the same recipe as you received in the reminder email, and the same recipe we're gonna send afterwards. You just would not put any of the houska, any of the bread in it. The bread kind of gives it nice little speckles inside, but as I said, it's not necessary. So that's the difference between kinuté knedlíky and houskové knedlíky. And then we have the baking powder knedlíky. Then we also have potato knedlíky, which we haven't made yet. So maybe that would be a good addition to make next time. Does anyone have any requests what we should make, what they miss from home, or would like to learn how to make? If you can put it in the chat, that would be great. And
if not, we should go to Denisa, I guess now, because I have to finish the pancakes.
Okay, finish the pancake.
So,
Well, I think that I'm done, and I have the soup ready to be served in on a plate, in a bowl, and this is how you would serve it. Again, this one doesn't have any mushrooms, and you can also add garlic, but this one is ready to be served. I think we can go back to you, Lenko.
Oh, okay. We have Lenka here, and while Lenka is finishing her palacinky, I just have little note on the bramborová polévka, because pretty much every Czech dish, especially on Sundays, you know, the meal goes soup, main course, and dessert. Pretty
At
much
lunch.
very
For lunch.
yes, at lunch. Very much very traditional. Like when the kids go to school, their school lunch will have soup, main course, and a dessert. Especially Sunday lunch would definitely always have soup. But some soups are just thin, more of a broth based. But then we have, it's called přesnídávkové polévky, which bramboračka would be one of them, which are thickened with roux and are more substantial. And usually it's called přesnídávková polévka. So the workers, when they would be on their break, they need something really filling and warm. So they would just have just the soup and a piece of rohlík or bread for their soup. So those are the more thicker and heavier soups.
And I was also gonna mention that if flour is not preferred, or there's somebody doesn't want to have a thick flour-based soup, you can also take one potato, and instead of cutting it into the cubes that I did in our version, you can take one and shred it on a shredder very finely. And when you cook it, it will create the thickness of the soup instead of flour. So that's another option as well.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Wonderful.
And I saw Slavka's question about ovocné knedlíky. You will find we did have ovocné knedlíky edition, I think 2 years ago. It's on YouTube on our channel. I will send out the link to that. We made 3 different kinds. We made gluten-free, then we made raisin, like dough, kynuté knedlíky ovocné, fruit dumplings, and then we made those which are based with like cottage cheese. So all those 3 versions we covered in our, I believe, September of 23, but I might be wrong. You would definitely find all the recipes and all how to on our YouTube channel. And link to our YouTube channel is always at the bottom of our newsletter. I hope every one of you is getting the newsletter so you know what's happening. And we are always love seeing you at our events. And the water is now boiling. So let's put the dumplings in the water.
Wonderful. We are getting some questions and requests for future cooking sessions. Somebody said that they missed the Czech rye bread. So rye bread would be nice. Someone said the potato knedlíky, maybe in the Slovak recipe, maybe it's called pagači. Halušky is also one, but the halušky are more, they're not like potato dumpling. So we were getting some good ideas from our participants about a future cooking class.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the dumplings. And again, your bread scraper will come handy. And I'm just waiting for Lenka to turn down her palachinka because you can use the scraper to pick up and roll your knedlík and drop it in the water.
And you see how it's really
And-
boiling.
And
Yeah.
put it down the raisin side down. All right. And we're gonna cover them. And we're gonna turn the timer for 8 minutes. And I'm turning the timer on.
And Milena,
And
in 8 minutes, you turn them around from the other
Yeah.
side?
Yes, after 8 minutes, I will flip them over for a few more minutes.
And then what's the second half after you flip them?
That's-
Is it less?
About 7, yes, it's a little shorter.
Okay.
Yep, the total cooking time is about 14 to 15 minutes. Sometimes I use skewer
Oh, yeah.
after I flip them and poke them in the middle. And it's pretty much the same as you would check when you're making babovka or any cake in the oven. And if it's sticky, then you need to keep them another minute. And we're just gonna tilt the lid a little bit. Wow, Lenka is mastering everything, filming and
Yeah.
What a team.
and everything. Okay, so I can take this from you. And you can see that I have ready some flour. It's 2 tablespoons of flour and a cup of water. Oh, you're baking up. So that's gonna be the thickening agent for the ptáčky, which we're gonna go to in a minute. And here I already have ready I don't know, what do you call this? Mřížka.
Cooling grid.
Cooling something?
Back.
Where the dumplings, when they come out of the water, cooling rack, thank you. We're gonna set them on and we're gonna use the skewer to poke them. And it's very important to poke them really good so they don't, because if you don't, you need to let the steam escape. Otherwise, the dumplings would kind of fold on each other, on itself.
Like
and
shrink?
yeah, it would break inside and it would not be as fluffy and yummy. And then we will cut them with a string because they're too soft to be cut with a knife. Once they cool down, then you can cut them with knife, but when they're hot and you're gonna serve them right away, then you wanna cut them with a string. So that's that, and let's put the thickening agent into the ptáčky. Can you hold this, please? And I just do it in any glass jar. You can put a lid on and just shake, 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 shake. Shake, shake, shake. And we're gonna pour it in there. We can leave the tzatziki in there because there is enough space around. And raise the heat because we really want the flour we just put in there to cook through so it would taste nice and smooth, that wouldn't have that floury taste to it. Okay. Take it from you, and Lenka's almost done with her palachinki. I think she's making her last one.
2 more, yeah.
2 more. Very good. So this is gonna be, it's getting thicker as it's heating up. And I'm gonna, now when it's boiling, I'm gonna put the lid back on and turn down the heat. There we go. And you can look into the dumplings. They didn't really double in size, but they got much bigger. That's why you need a big pot. So we're gonna let them cook. We have 4 more minutes out of the 8.
Before you flip them.
Yeah, before I flip them, correct.
So Lenko, I see you making the pancakes. As I mentioned, my father-in-law or grandpa, when we had those for breakfast, we had to eat them as they were coming off the pan. So it was always, there was a line, the boys were trained where grandpa's making pancakes, they were coming to each plates immediately because I think when you let them cool off, they just taste a little different. And he made them very thin, very fast. So we just remember that grandpa's factory on pancakes was very popular, but we had to eat them hot as they came off the pan.
I usually make a lot of pancakes, and then on the other hand, I save some for next day, and then I have them for breakfast.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I just simply microwave them like
Mhm.
everything nowadays, right? So yeah, this last one is most interesting shape.
That's
That's
Like a frog.
it's like a map of
It's a
pancake
dragon.
land.
It's a dragon.
Pancake land or something.
It can be creative.
Yeah.
And you can do zapečené palachinky too.
Yes, but they're usually filled with quark, or it's like ricotta cheese with egg, sugar, and again zest from a lemon. You fill them, and I think when they're done, you roll them, fill them, and then you pour milk over them and you bake them in the oven. They're really good. The best ones used to be in Mlečný bar. I don't know if somebody remembers.
Oh, yeah.
They were those Mlečný bar restaurants, and they always had those pancakes. I loved them. I never make them at home because we always bought them there. I don't think I have them since then. It's like 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah, Mlečný bar was awesome for those who remember.
We miss that.
Yep.
Okay,
That's
I'm gonna go now.
Yep, yep, you can do it.
The plate, please.
Tam jsem ti připravila.
Oh, ty Marie?
Chceš velký?
Okay, so now we start to fill in the pancakes with whatever we like. Okay, there is no stop to whatever you want to put in. I'm starting with strawberry jam. It's the Czech version or the Swedish version. The Czech way, we spread the jam. Use quite a lot of it, otherwise, yeah, it's nothing. And it should go not necessarily over the whole thing, but at least 3/4 of it, right? And especially, the lengthwise, because when you roll them, right, you want the jam to be all over the pancake. On this side, well, that will be just the end, and that's fine. So that's jam. You can use, I said Nutella. I didn't have Nutella. I have some hazelnut spread from Trader Joe's that you spread. Don't have to use too much of it. Oh, the goodness.
Some whipped cream.
Oh, you can do whipped cream. You can do
And
egg
fruit.
curd.
Mm.
Right, you can do this, and then you should use. I need a knife. We didn't do this.
Here you go.
Yeah, we just.
And while Lenka's cutting the banana, I'm gonna flip the dumplings. And you just kind of make sure they're not stuck on the sides. And you touch them and they flip over. And we cover this, and I'm gonna just add 7 more minutes. There we go.
Yes.
And
while Milena
oh,
was
and
doing
Lenka made
that,
some health food. I think that
Oh.
qualifies as a health food now.
It is healthy, yes, definitely. I put them in a row because I will be rolling them, which is easier that way. If you don't want to roll, you can just put them on top any way you like. So this is the second kind. Then I will have the third kind that my son prefers. It's with cinnamon, ground cinnamon, of course, and then some powdered sugar. Here we have actually a little sieve. We can do it that way. It doesn't matter. It's going to be inside. You just have to put it there, because otherwise it's not going to taste much. And then again, we roll. Now you can use any jam. You can use marmalade. You can use just anything you like in your family. That would be it. And then I have to keep doing this until it's done.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna go stir. I'm gonna let you wash your hands, and I'm gonna stir the tachki, the dumpling. You kind of want to, I don't know if you can really see it. You don't want the water to run all over, kind of, but be boiling, bubbling all around the dumpling. So we have few more minutes on that. So we're gonna stir the gravy, but we want the gravy to be nice and cooked through. So now is almost the time when you would add the hard-boiled egg to the rozletane ptáčky. Or you could grate it on top. Once you are serving the dish, you could grate the hard-boiled egg on top of the entire dish. You would have the dumplings, you would have the pieces of meat, you would have some chunks of bacon, sausage, and pickle in the gravy, and then you would decorate with the grated hard-boiled egg, so it would look good. So I think these are done. So we're gonna undress them. So we're gonna take them out of the sauce, and everything stayed in. We didn't lose any
Filling.
goodness, any
Yeah.
filling. That's awesome. This can keep bubbling. And I'm gonna do it right here because I'm gonna return them back in there. I'll take my scissors. So this is the one which we tied with the string. So just put your scissors underneath and cut the string.
And unwrap. Just like
Like a
present.
package. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a present.
Like a present. Just
There we
unwrap.
go.
And you see now they hold.
Yeah, they hold, but still be gentle. So we're gonna put it in there. We have one more with the string. One more present. There we go. And they're hot. That's why I'm using the tongs.
Yeah, a little more string there.
Oh,
You. Well,
so it's the fiber. I think we're gonna just get some of them. Yeah, that's the toothpick. I'm gonna leave that one in. And I'm gonna tell the people who are eating it that there is a toothpick because they're more the meat sticks to the toothpick a little more. So I don't want to tear it all apart. So I'm going to return that one in. And then the needles work great because they slide right out. And we put that back in there. And we can put the rest of the gravy, and you can see the chunks of bacon back in there. That is all done. And we are almost done. So I'm gonna do the test with the toothpick. On the knedlik. Because we're 3 minutes, 2 minutes out. So this would be the time perfect. And I'm just gonna pick the middle. And it comes out, it's not sticky. So I think it's ready to come out pretty much. And I'm gonna put this away. More room, cover them. I don't drip all the water in there. And get the dumpling out. Set it on the cooling rack and poke, 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 poke. Yeah, you really want all the steam to escape because it gelatinized on the outside. So if you don't do it, the steam will stay in it. As we said, it will break. So that's one. And we're gonna get the other one and just do the same thing. Actually, if you cook with little kids, this was always my kids' favorite part, to poke as many holes as they could when the kids were little. And perfect. So now I'm gonna turn off the pot, and we're gonna serve. We're gonna slice the dumplings. I'm gonna do it, I think, right here. I will show you how quick it is to clean with a bread scraper. And we're gonna slice dumplings there. Can you see? So you want a string, you can use a dental floss, but definitely don't use the minted one. This is just a regular sewing string, and you go under, you cross, and you tighten. And they will slice off. What's nice on using the cooling rack which is not square, that you can cut your dumplings at the ridges the cooling rack did, and then all of your dumplings will be the same size. And slice again. And as I mentioned, when you pull them out hot like this, don't cut them with knife. I can show you what would happen. When you push on it with knife, they squish. And then the dumpling is misshapen. Like when you cover it with sauce, but if you're a perfectionist, I like my dumplings looking good, so I cut them with the string. But once they're cold, then you can definitely cut them with a knife. It's all good. And I usually double the recipe when I'm making them because it's one mess in the kitchen and they freeze really well. I don't cut them for freezing. I wrap them in clear wrap and then put them in the Ziploc freezer bag and then take them out, let them defrost, and just heat them up either in the microwave after slicing them, or you can use a steamer and steam them. And now we're gonna place the dumplings on a plate. It's nice. And we're gonna add the ptaček. And I'm just gonna pick one. Put it on the plate and cover it with gravy. And voila. And if you want to have a healthier meal, you could cook some broccoli. You can serve it with some broccoli or side salad. But pretty much, this is it. And Lenka is doing great with all her palachinki.
I'm finishing. So they were actually 9 of them. So I will have 3 of each. Right? I just wanted to finish so we can show how you can serve it. Back to the ptački. We in my family always ate them with rice. So we didn't make knedlíky with ptački, which I don't know, it's a tradition. I think in a restaurant, they usually do it with rice too. So you can do whatever you like, right?
I think, if it came to it, you could eat them with potatoes or pasta too.
Anything, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
whatever rocks your boat.
Yeah. So here we have the pancakes. And that's the way it's nice. And if we want to serve them nicely, they're not too hot now, so we can, cover with little powder sugar. It still melts because they are warm, but it looks little nice. Okay? And you have a little dessert for your family.
Happy Sunday. We're done with lunch. Let's eat. Jano, back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're getting lots of messages, excuse me, in the chat, how delicious it looks. People love their palachinki with ground walnuts and sugar, even cocoa. Some say that they drizzle a little bit of lemon juice into them. I think that's more of an English palachinka with sugar and lemon juice. You're getting applause from other people. We have someone joining us here from Bratislava. He's giving you a clapping emoji, Milena.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So a lot of wonderful smiles from our participants. Look at these beautiful dishes. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for watching this demonstration. You will get a follow-up email. We will have this on YouTube in about a week to 10 days. We have all the other ones. And of course, if you are on today's cooking class, you're getting our newsletter, but we also have everything listed at sokolsf.org on our website, including upcoming events, the distance voting for any Czech citizens who are interested in participating for the first time in distance voting or absentee voting. We have that information, but our number one communications medium is our monthly email, Věstník or newsletter. I want to thank all of you for joining us for this amazing 90-minute cooking session. And I want to thank our 3 chefs. Dennis, so any last words?
No, bon appetit, happy Sunday.
Thank you. Milena.
Thank you everybody for joining us. And I would like to invite all of you who are in the Bay Area on the 31st of May in Redwood City. We have a special group coming from the Czech Republic. It's Základní umělecká škola Kyjov. They are all in their Moravian costumes. They sing, they bring their cymbal, they bring their fiddles and dancers, and it's going to be a spectacular afternoon. So if you are in, they played in Carnegie Hall last year and they had a great ovations. So please, it's a free event and we would love to see all of you and show them that our Czech and Slovak and Moravian community here is strong too, that people are still loving their culture from back home. So please join us on the 31st of May. All the information is our newsletter or on our Facebook or our webpage.
Website.
Yep, our website. Thank you.